We've now made it through 5 full months without losing a single game. A few too many draws, so we're still not top of the league, but I'm starting to think we could become top of the league fairly soon. This feels to me like it could be the season where we finally win seriously rather than relying on the playoffs promotion. Let's hope that my optimism isn't misplaced. We'll find out today a little bit more about whether it is or not. So here you can see our form recently has been pretty good. You were here for the Palermo game. Since then, 2 draws and 2 wins. And we've had a few more clean sheets. We did concede those 3 goals against Monopoly, which I think was the first time we conceded more than 1 all season. Well, certainly no, since the first game of the season, which was odd. But we did manage to win the game anyway. And this was one where we were actually 4-0 up and had a bit of a wobble at the end of the game. Those last few minutes were pretty tense, I can tell you. But then a nice routine win against Casetana in the last game, which was rather nice. We have brought somebody in. He hasn't yet played for us, but Abubakar Diaby. The reason why he hasn't played is because he's been away at the ANC with the Ivory Coast. He has actually got 1 cap. He may be my first ever capped player. I'm not sure about that. But it certainly looks like a very decent player. He will be my new anchor. Well, he's going to be a half-back, actually, not an anchor. So he will be sitting at the base of this midfield and trying to whip a few passes into my forward players. Pretty decent passing for this level. You can see it's quite a quality player, I think, and should just give us that little push to be an even better side. We've still got Mancuso, who will be playing, I think, in central midfield today. And Christian Di Marco got sent off in the last game, which was a bit of a problem. It means that we have to play Mattioli, which is far from ideal. He's not really a left-back, and I'm not sure if he's good enough, but we will see. That, I think, is going to be our team for today. Yeah, I think we go for Riella instead of Delfini. That's probably a good idea. So, this is my team for the day. Hoping to make sure that we can get those further 3 points. We're a little bit behind where I'd like to be at the moment for that 84-point target that I wanted. If we get 2 wins today, I don't think the games I'm doing aren't back-to-back, but if we do get 2 wins in a row, then we will be there. We've got Cosenza and then Vibonese later on. I don't believe they are my next opponents, though. I think I decided, Furtis Francavilla is next. We played them loads, and Vibonese are direct rivals, so we're having these 2 games today. Hopefully we can continue our good run of form, and we've kicked off. Riella is aggressive self as usual. Seem to have to tell him to calm down most of the time. Palermo winning against Campobasso, but it looks like Frosinone are not winning. Oh, is Riella going to be sent off now? Oh, he is. He's just got back from the ban as well. Oh, goodness me. He's got to stop this. He's consistently getting sent off. It's not on. It's a problem that we keep losing Riella early because his discipline is letting him down. I think it might be a case of having to cash in on him soon. Because if he can't keep his discipline, he's just not going to be... He's not going to be the player that I thought he was going to be. His progress has actually stalled anyway. Not really improved a huge amount. You can see that there have been improvements, but it's flatlined in the last, year or so. Roughly a year or so. He had that big improvement in his work rate just over a year ago. But since then, it's interesting that the work rate goes up and the progress seems to stall. In the odd little tiny improvement, but not even a full attribute there. And I think it might be time for Riella to move on. It's just a shame when you see a young player who had as much potential as him and his aggression is just getting the better of him too often. Baracco is through and we are 1 behind. I think going down to 10 men so early, it's going to make things difficult for us. We do need to start thinking about how we can perhaps improve this side, and that's, I think, one area that we can do. Is moving Riella on and getting some improvements in those areas. Part of the problem, I think, with him is I don't really know where his best position is. I thought I was going to turn him into a ball-winning midfielder, but it didn't really work. I was thinking that aggression would be a plus point there, and to some extent it is. But as you've seen too often, he's a victim of that aggression when he gets his red cards, and he's been banned for multiple yellow cards on several occasions as well. Can we get back into this game now? Castellucci's there, but he can't. He was offside anyway. Right, that wasn't very good. I don't really see us getting back into this. It's one of those games where it just doesn't feel like the kind of game we can win now. 10 men and not really looking like we're creating much. This would leave us 6 points behind Frosinone, who I assume are now ahead, are they? Yeah, they're 2-0 up. So 6 point gap in 13 games is certainly not insurmountable, but it starts to look harder, doesn't it? Cosenza, obviously, this would be a big step towards us for them. If we were to get a win here, then we'd be quite a long way ahead of them, but that's not going to happen, is it? Baracco makes it 2-0. And to be honest, we have not really looked at the races since the red card. Really disappointing start to the video, I'm afraid. We've got Vibonese up next, who, as you can see, they are 10 points behind us, but obviously not a poor side. So, and that's a game if we want to win this league, that's now a game I think we absolutely have to win. This is, of course, our first defeat since the first day of the season. In some ways, I'm quite glad I showed it to you, just to prove to you that we can lose. And we can play as poorly as this as well. We've been really poor today. Interesting that the XG doesn't reflect that, but it didn't. Like, a lot of these were not highlights. We clearly haven't played as well as we should have done. And it's a really disappointing performance. There's not much I can say other than that. DRB made his debut, but didn't exactly do much. 6.6 is not ideal. And obviously, Riella getting that red card is problematic. Bring in Zara for the next game, so it's not a big problem right now, but it's not ideal. So I'm going to be back for the Vibonese game. I'll play the versus Francavilla game off camera, and you will see me after that. So see you in a second. So here we are at the Vibonese game. The bad news is we've managed to lose another one. So after going months and months and months without defeat, we've now lost 2 games by 2-0 in a row. So this is now a game we absolutely 100% have to win. We need to probably win every game from now on in, give us any real chance of getting anything out of this season that we want, as in automatic promotion, really. We kind of have to win the league. This is the team I'm going to go with today. It's one of those where it could have gone several different ways, but I think it's the right decision. I'm just wondering if Perizan gets a game. I think Perizan gets a game. That's the only change I'm going to make. Other than that, we're going to keep that as I was intending to before I switched on the camera. So, Perizan, Lacti, Colucci, Pisano, Di Marco. Abdullah Bassett playing for the opposition, by the way, former Zaffarana player, captain for them. Rolla, Riella, Mancuso and Reddy in midfield. And then Piscopo behind them with Castellucci up front. It's the Abdullah Bassett. He was a massive failure for me. I thought he was going to be a really good signing, but didn't really turn out like that. And we're off against Vibonese. Really is a must-win game now with that big gap to Frosinone, 9 points. It's a must-not lose, certainly, and I think it really is a must-win game now. I do not want to have to face those playoffs again, and we're pretty much going to have to win every game in order to get that. Di Marco crosses it in, and it's headed wide. Palermo still 0-0. Frosinone still 0-0. Palermo are now ahead. Jurgens gets a penalty for them in 27th. So there's already a big gap, even just to Palermo as it stands. Which is all irrelevant if we don't get wins ourselves, though. And this is the problem. At the moment, we are not really getting them. In fact, as it stands, Cosenza go ahead of us. We need to get a win here. If we do get a win, it might be 2 points further gained on Frosinone. So it could be a positive day, even if Palermo are winning. Palermo finds Mancuso. Mancuso shoots and wiles over unnecessarily. Silly decision to shoot from there. And it really is looking like we might come up short here. Paul Haraldson, can he make something happen? To Rolla. Palermo to Teresi. Haraldson. Di Marco, can he make something happen again? Di Marco crosses it and Rolla's there. And Di Marco is leaving at the end of the season after a long while with us, and we will miss him massively. But I did feel that it was time to move on. I just think it's perhaps... Oh, goodness me. Just as we get what could have been a crucial win, we throw it away. Five minutes of injury time to try and get something more out of this game, or are we going to let another opportunity slip with Frosinone drawing? Cosenza are going to go ahead of us, I think. And they are indeed. A really disappointing game here. And a disappointing couple of games, really. I think I might try and do one more game in this video just to basically to cheer myself up, because this is otherwise rather depressing, because as soon as I switch the video on, we mess up. We hadn't lost a game for 23 games before I switched the video. No, yeah, it was 24 games before I switched the camera on. And now suddenly we find ourselves with 1 point in 3. And that is not ideal. So yeah, I think we will have the Fidelis Andri again now. We'll make it a 3-game video today. because we need a win. We need a win badly. 11 games left. We're 9 points off Frosinone. Obviously didn't lose a point on them today, so in some ways that was a no change game, but a massive missed opportunity, and it does mean that Palermo are also a long way ahead of us now. We're going to be relying on 2 teams to massively slip up, even if we do win every game from here, which I think is unlikely. And yeah, it's problematic with Di Marco. Good though he's been, now suspended and let's say he's leaving. But yeah, there's just too many people underperforming, really. Can I get Mancuso back next year? No, I can't. Right, and here we go for the last game of today's video. Midweek game with Palermo obviously playing as well, and Frosinone also playing against Taranto. So this is the kind of game where we certainly need to win, and we need to really hope that we can undo some of the damage of a couple of poor results with a couple of other results going our way as well. Let's give Fleri a game because Castellucci's not doing a great job at the moment by his standards. Right, let's make sure that we win this one. This is definitely a game we must win. Otherwise, I think we wave goodbye to any chance of the title. It's unlikely even as it is, but it's not impossible yet. We can make sure we win today, though. Do definitely need to do that. Riella with the corner. Finds ready, but saved, and we have another corner. Riella again. Another good, decent corner. He's a decent corner taker, Riella. But he's offside that time. Ready, finds Roller. Back to Mancuso. Riella. And we've thrown that decent position away, really. Frosinone getting an early lead. It's obviously looking like a bit of a forlorn hope at the moment anyway. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Palermo at the moment. No sign of their game here for some reason. There we are, still 0-0 with Messina. Probably take 0-0 at half time, but we need to make sure we go on in that second half and get the goals. Preferably more than one. Need to restore a bit of confidence to this side. But Sandri's in, and Sandri makes it 1-0 to Fidelis. At this point, it does look like a bit of a collapse a la last season, where we were second in the league in November in Serie B. We ended up getting relegated. And we're not going to get relegated this time, don't get me wrong. But I think the idea of automatic promotion is swiftly fading. A really poor performance here against Fidelis. This is not the Fidelis team that we've played in the playoffs in the past. This is a poor Fidelis team who are not doing particularly well in Serie C. Possibly even relegation candidates, although I think they'll be okay. See there's quite a big gap to the 3 worst teams. And you would think that it would be Siracusa or Torres plus Paganese or one of them. Riella. Mancuso to Fleri. Oh, goodness me. It's been a really poor performance again. Story of this video, I'm afraid, folks. I'm not sure quite what I can do about it, because this is not very nice. Just haven't quite got the quality, maybe, that we ought to have. We should do, though. I mean, this is a team that looked like absolute world beaters in Serie B for almost half of last season. Certainly a third of it, anyway. And we are absolutely chucking away back in Serie C now. 12 points behind Frosinone. And I think that probably is curtains for the title. Of course, it's not impossible that we could do what we did a couple of years ago and go up through the playoffs, but we tried so many times and only succeeded once that my hopes are not that high. Obviously, if we could get, it's not impossible, we could finish second still. If we could get that second place and get ourselves a quarter-final berth, then that would obviously be a plus point and make it a little bit easier. But let's face it, we're going to have a couple of difficult games at the end of the season, and if we go into it with form anything like this, we've got absolutely no chance. Really, really frustrating period of the save this. The last 12 months of the save just been really, really poor. Let's get Roller off, and let's get Fleri off as well. And while we're at it, we might as well get Ready off. We're now as close to 10th as we are to first, unfortunately. And I know this team is better than this. But something's going to have to change. We're going to have a team meeting, possibly a look at the tactics. Something is not right. And that's that, folks. We are looking probably at another year in Serie C. It's not impossible, of course, that we could go up through the playoffs, but it's going to be a long, hard slog. And I think the chances of us going up automatically now are almost gone. Marion Parhas, he's a Southampton player, wasn't he? Yeah. Southampton alumnus. Goodness me. brings me back. So yeah, we will be back later in the season. I think we'll be back for the youth intake. See if we can get any crumbs of comfort there. So that will probably be around the Campobasso game. If it really starts to hot up, then we might think about which games here could be really useful. Catania is the only one really where you think that could be a team that we could be worrying about. I mean, Frosinone, I don't think we now can worry about too much. If we were to win that, I suppose it's not completely impossible, but 12 points, it's, even if we were to win that, that's 9 points. I think it's unlikely. So I'm not going to worry too much about Frosinone, but we will be back with the youth intake and for at least one game at that point, maybe two, depending on what it looks like. And then if it looks like we'll then be back for the playoffs. So I'll see you tomorrow. It's obviously been another disappointing game. Well, a couple of games. Let's hope we can crawl things back and at least get into some decent form ahead of the playoffs so that we can go into it with our heads held high and really, hopefully, get through them again for the second time. See you tomorrow, folks. Have a good evening.